Most people believe they know who someone is. They believe identity reveals itself slowly through years of conversation, shared experiences, and time spent together. But often the truth is far simpler. Human nature leaks out in small moments, quiet reactions, unplanned responses, moments where the mask slips. Carl Jung once observed that every person lives behind a persona, a social mask designed to make life manageable. A mask built for politeness, for approval, for belonging, and most of the time, the mask works. But the deeper self cannot stay hidden forever, because the real personality is not revealed when someone is prepared. It is revealed when they are uncomfortable, unobserved, or unrewarded. In other words, you rarely discover someone's true nature in their successes, their achievements, or their carefully constructed identity. You discover it in the quiet fractures of everyday life, a small irritation, a moment of power, or a moment when nothing can be gained. These moments are psychological windows, and through them, three traits emerge almost instantly. Three subtle signals that reveal far more about a person than any resume, reputation, or carefully crafted image. Not who they say they are, but who they actually are. Modern culture teaches us to judge people by the wrong signals. We admire confidence. We admire productivity. We admire charisma, ambition, and the ability to dominate a room. Social media magnifies this illusion. People present the most polished version of themselves, achievements displayed like trophies, confidence exaggerated, personality simplified into a brand. But this is not character. It is performance is easy when the spotlight is on. Jung understood this well. He believed modern society pushes people deeper into their personas, the external identities they show the world, while their deeper psychological structures remain largely unexplored. A person may appear confident and successful while remaining internally fragile. They may appear kind while quietly carrying resentment. They may appear wise while avoiding self-reflection entirely. The problem is not deception. Most people are not consciously lying. They are simply unaware of themselves. And this is why brief moments, subtle moments, can reveal so much, because true character appears not when someone is trying to be impressive, but when they are simply being themselves. And the first trait that reveals a person's nature appears in one of the smallest social situations imaginable. A moment so ordinary most people overlook it. Imagine a quiet restaurant late in the evening. A tired server brings a glass of water. No audience, no professional advantage, no social status to gain. Just a brief interaction between two people. And yet, in this moment, something very revealing can appear. Some people become impatient, dismissive, cold. Others remain respectful, not because it benefits them, but because it reflects something deeper inside them. This is the first trait that reveals true character. How someone treats people who have no power to reward or punish them. This moment bypasses the social mask, because kindness that exists only when it is advantageous is not kindness, it is strategy. Friedrich Nietzsche once suggested that power reveals character more clearly than hardship. When someone holds even the smallest amount of power, the power to dismiss, ignore, or dominate, their deeper orientation toward the world begins to surface. Some people instinctively humanize others. Others instinctively rank them. This difference is not small. It reflects something profound about the structure of a person's psyche. Jung might describe this difference as a relationship to the shadow. Those who have integrated their shadow, who have faced their darker impulses honestly, tend to treat others with humility. They know what they are capable of. They know the darker sides of human nature exist within themselves, and this awareness softens them. But those who deny their shadow often project it outward. They see weakness in others and react with contempt, not because they are stronger, but because they are unconsciously defending themselves from their own vulnerability. So in the smallest interactions, a waiter, a cleaner, a stranger asking for help, you can glimpse a deep psychological truth. Does this person recognize humanity in others, or only hierarchy? The answer often appears immediately. And the second revealing trait emerges in an even more uncomfortable moment. There is a particular tension that enters a room when someone realizes they are mistaken. Conversation pauses, an uncomfortable silence appears, and suddenly a decision must be made. Will the person acknowledge the mistake or defend their identity at all costs? This moment is psychologically revealing because it touches something fragile, the ego. Most people do not fear being wrong. They fear what being wrong means about them. If their identity depends on appearing intelligent, competent, or superior, then admitting error feels like psychological collapse. So instead of adjusting, they double down, they interrupt, they rationalize, they shift the conversation. But occasionally you meet someone who responds differently. They pause, they listen, and they simply say, "You're right." Not with humiliation, not with defensiveness, but with calm curiosity. This response reveals something extremely rare: psychological flexibility. Viktor Frankl, the psychiatrist who survived Nazi concentration camps, believed the deepest form of human freedom is the ability to choose one's response. The ego demands protection, but a developed mind values truth more than pride. And this difference signals an important stage of psychological maturity. Jung believed that genuine growth requires what he called individuation, the lifelong process of integrating unconscious parts of ourselves into awareness. But individuation requires humility. You cannot discover your unconscious if you refuse to admit you might be wrong. So when someone reacts calmly to correction, it often signals something deeper. They are not defending a fragile identity, they are expanding it. And that difference changes everything about how they grow. But the third trait reveals something even more fundamental, because it appears not in moments of power or embarrassment, but in moments of silence. There is a quiet scene many people experience but rarely talk about. Late at night, the house is silent, the phone is down, the distractions are gone, and for a few moments there is nothing to do. No productivity, no entertainment. Just a person alone with their own thoughts. For some people, this moment is peaceful. For others, it is unbearable. They reach for their phone, turn on the television, open another tab, anything to avoid the silence. But the ability to exist comfortably in stillness reveals something important about the inner world. Jung believed that modern people are terrified of introspection, because when external distractions disappear, the unconscious begins to speak. Regrets surface. Questions about meaning appear. Unfinished dreams return. And suddenly, a person must face the deeper narrative of their life. Many avoid this encounter entirely. They remain busy, productive, entertained, not because they are fulfilled, but because silence feels dangerous. But those who can sit quietly with themselves reveal a different psychological relationship. They are not fleeing their inner world. They are in conversation with it. And that conversation changes everything, because self-awareness grows in silence. Wisdom grows in reflection, and identity deepens when someone becomes willing to ask uncomfortable questions about their own life. So, when you observe someone's relationship with stillness, you glimpse something fundamental. Are they comfortable inside their own mind, or constantly escaping it? The answer reveals far more than charisma, ambition, or success ever could. Picture an older man sitting alone in a dim kitchen late at night. The house is quiet. Family photos line the wall. The life he built surrounds him. But his thoughts are elsewhere. He is remembering conversations he avoided, moments when pride prevented him from apologizing, times when impatience hurt someone who did not deserve it, moments when he chose distraction instead of reflection. This scene is not tragic. It is human, because eventually every person reaches a stage of life where the persona weakens, the outer roles fade, the achievements matter less, and the deeper question emerges: who was I really? Not who did I pretend to be? Not who did the world think I was? But what kind of person did I become in the small moments that defined my character? Jung believed that in the second half of life, the psyche begins demanding authenticity, the mask becomes exhausting, and the deeper self asks to be recognized. Some people respond to this call. They reflect, they apologize, they grow softer and wiser. Others resist it. They cling to identity, pride, and the familiar mask. But time has a way of dissolving illusions, which brings us to the most important realization of all. In the end, life quietly measures us by very simple things, not status, not wealth, not reputation, but character. How we treated people, how we handled being wrong, how honestly we faced ourselves. These three traits may seem small, but they are reflections of something vast, the structure of a human soul. Because a person who respects others without advantage, who adjusts when confronted with truth, and who can sit quietly with their own thoughts, is someone who has begun the long process Jung called becoming whole. And wholeness, in the end, is the real work of life. Everything else, the titles, the achievements, the applause, eventually fades, but character remains, and it reveals itself constantly in moments most people overlook. So the next time you meet someone, pay attention to the subtle signals, not the confidence they display, not the image they present, but the quiet moments where the mask slips. How they treat the unnoticed, how they react to correction, how they exist in silence, because in those brief windows something real appears, not the persona, but the person. And perhaps the deeper question is not only about recognizing these traits in others, but noticing them in ourselves, because every day offers the same small tests, the same quiet choices. And through them, slowly, almost invisibly, a life reveals what it truly is. If this reflection resonated with you, consider subscribing and sharing it with someone who appreciates deeper conversations about human nature. Sometimes the most important insights are not the loudest ones. They are the quiet realizations that change how we see people and ourselves.